Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to Late Night Learning. I'm your host, Dr. Anthony Palomba. Now today we're going to be talking about attitudes and persuasion in video gameplay. So we're going to be thinking about how people formulate different kinds of attitudes. We will be looking at the elaboration likelihood model and thinking about how people catch certain messages and kind of disassociate from other messages as well. We're going to be looking at a few other models as well to help explain how and why people pick up particular kinds of messages and don't really pick up on other kinds of messages. Let's get started. Types of messages that we have at our disposal really can be broken down into two major binary categories. We have messages that might appeal to our emotional side, and we have messages that might appeal to our rationale. And so we know that sex, humor, fear, and other plot devices, other storytelling devices can be used in helping us to consume and to codify these particular messages within our own minds. Let's keep going. The elaboration likelihood model is a model that helps us understand how consumers process information. Now, during an advertisement, it may very well be that you're thinking about your own retirement, let's say. So we're thinking about our own retirement. We're thinking about a lot of different elements in the advertisement that are germane to how I might make a decision about my retirement. Am I doing a 403B? Am I doing an IRA? Am I doing some sort of mutual fund? How am I setting myself up for retirement? This requires a lot of critical thinking and a lot of active thinking. And so the commercial may be processed through the central route. We also have the peripheral route here. The peripheral route is another route in which we may consume advertisement and information, but we're not really critiquing it. It's kind of at a subconscious level that we're consuming information. If we think about how humor is interjected in a lot of advertisements, if we're thinking about Old Spice, if we're thinking about a lot of other silly commercials, they're not really going through the central route. If anything, they're going through the peripheral route. And so sometimes if we have low involvement with that commercial, we're not critiquing it. We're not picking it apart. Instead, we're processing it. And so sometimes commercials may prefer to make you laugh than inform you. If we're informing you, it kind of triggers a higher level of thinking. Let's keep going. Credibility. And so credibility is an important basis when we're thinking about not just advertisements, but also video gameplay. And so credibility deals with corporate social responsibility. It deals with the sleeper effect, and it deals with source attractiveness. And so if we're thinking about what may impact credibility, if we're thinking about corporate social responsibility, we're thinking about source attractiveness, we're thinking about the sleeper effect, we think about what impacts credibility. Source qualifications are relevant. So if we're thinking about credibility in the gaming sphere, we might think about Nintendo and Microsoft and Sony. Those companies have built very, very strong brand equity. They've really fought to ensure that they are the premier market players. They've even helped consumers determine share of wallet. How much are you willing to spend on a Nintendo game versus a Microsoft game? Or how much are you willing to spend on a Nintendo console versus a Microsoft console? All of these consumer touch points are predicated around credibility. What influences credibility? Source qualifications are relevant. Is Nintendo qualified to create this kind of game? We think about these things, don't we? We know that Nintendo can create Kirby and Mario and Zelda, but can Nintendo create a Call of Duty? Probably not. Even if the company had the resources and funding, it may not have the credibility with consumers to go ahead and create a first-person shooter video game. We also have to deal with the perception of the consumer. What does the consumer know about the particular brand at hand? What does the consumer feel about the particular brand? What does the consumer been exposed to about the particular brand. We use far fewer brands than we're aware of. So we have awareness of a lot more brands than we wind up using. And this is also true in gaming. Let's keep going. The ABC model of attitudes, experiential hierarchy. So we have affect, behavior, and cognition here, really thinking about how we experience consumption. In this bracket, we're thinking about how we get a sense of how we engage in entertainment. And so first there is affect. There's this mood that we're in, some sort of mood that we may be in. We may be happy, we may be sad, we may be glad, we may be angry, we may be jealous, we may be angry, we may be furious, whatever it may be. With all of these moods, we may go to entertainment to manipulate our attitude, and this gets into our previous lecture on mood management theory and perceived emotional intelligence. How aware are we of our own emotions? How much do we think that we're actually inclined by our own emotions to go ahead and do something? And so if we think about how we consume media and entertainment, we first have to be in a mood. Whether we're going to reinforce that sadness by listening to another sad romantic song or change it. Second, we have behavior. What kind of behavior are we embarking in? Are we sitting down next to this adorable dog and watching a movie or television show? Or are we looking for something more interactive? And then cognition. Our minds are engaged. And so this process can absolutely be mapped onto the video game playing experience. If we think about our own emotions before we play Call of Duty, our own emotions before we play League of Legends, Assassin's Creed, we have to be in a state of mind. Something has to trigger us to go play. Otherwise, we'd be playing it all the time, wouldn't we? Or maybe not at all. From there, the behavior. Are you interested in beating entire levels, or are you interested in just kind of playing for the sake of playing? And then cognition. How was the experience? How did you feel? What did you think of it? Are you creating more or different brand associations that might be encoded within your memory for future decision making? All of these elements come together in an experiential hierarchy, so we can get a better sense of how and why people play gaming and how our attitudes really serve as forerunners here for gameplay. Let's keep going. Consumer consistency. Consumer consistency. Principle of cognitive consistency. And what I have here are puzzles, games. Cognitive consistency. We seek out items, things that are cognitively consistent. We like consistency. We like consistent quality. That's why when we play video games, we're looking for consistent worlds, consistent experiences. Why? Because they reinforce our own decision making. They reinforce our own expectations. We know that was a good decision. Why was it a good decision? It was a good decision because I had the same experience that I had last time. And I knew that I would have this experience, and it worked out just fine. Additionally, we also have the theory of cognitive dissonance. Sometimes we hear information that runs counter to what we believe. Those of us who may be stalwart Xbox fans, they may hear something from PlayStation fans. Yeah, the Xbox One doesn't really have a great processor. Yeah, Halo from Microsoft, it's an exclusive game, but honestly, Call of Duty is way better. There are more guns, there are more options, there are more experiences that you can have as a consumer. Now, your brand loyalty may moderate or influence this, because if you really, really love Halo, you might tell PlayStation people, no, you've got it wrong. There's no way that this is true, even if empirically or objectively it's true. We do this all the time, and this can also be applied to a lot of political science studies, which it has. We tend to align ourselves with a party, a body of beliefs, and then we kind of protect it, even if there are some facts that might undermine the sanctity or strength of our party. Let's keep going. Attitude, slow but sure. So we formulate attitudes very carefully, very carefully. There is a theory called expectancy value theory. Now, expectancy value theory states that we evaluate an object, we have some sort of perception or belief of what it's about, and then thereafter, engaging the object, we make evaluations. So we have predetermined attitudes toward an object. We might have attitudes toward Nintendo. Yeah, I played that console, that N64 console when I was little. Nintendo is whimsical, it's juvenile, it's childish, it's something from my youth, but it's probably not something that I can experience in my adulthood. Probably doesn't work. I'm looking for something a bit more complex. Nintendo Switch, a product of Nintendo, a console by Nintendo, has had to make inroads and change consumers' attitudes toward Nintendo simply being a product for children or teenagers or grandma and grandpa or people who are kind of casual gamers. And so attitudes are formed everywhere. We form attitudes all over. Attitudes allow us to make decisions quicker. Attitudes allow us to navigate the world quicker. And so as video game marketers, one of the gauntlets that you have thrown to you, one of the challenges you have thrown to you, is to how to reinvent your gaming experience so that it refutes and rebukes different kinds of attitudes potential consumers may have about your product or service. Let's keep going. Uses of attitudes. Attitudes are wonderful for a lot of different reasons. One, there's a utilitarian function. It helps us in gaining a sense of the world. It helps us in gaining a sense of who we are as people. It helps us gain a sense of how we navigate the world. There's also value expressive function. Attitudes allow us to express values and attitudes as well. I love Xbox. I love Microsoft's ability to create an entertainment console. I value transition. I value cross-platform technology. I value the ability to go from platform to platform because frankly it saves me time and I'm very busy and I want to fulfill all of my life's obligations. This is where we start unearthing why people do what they do, why they appreciate what they appreciate. We get into consumer values. We dig deep. We dig oh so deep. Really get a sense of why it is we like something. I love having everything there, and I love being able to switch from television to video games to music. Xbox One allows me to do that. It's less complex than having other machinery. Everything's there. I have my preferences. It's an extension of me. That's pretty powerful when we're trying to think about how to create an advertisement campaign around the console. We also have an ego defensive function for attitudes. Attitudes help us protect our egos. My boss is terrible. It's not me. Or my professor hates me. That's why I didn't do well in that class. Whether or not these things are true, attitudes do serve as a way in which to help boost and maintain and heal our egos and to defend them as well. I could have done better at cooking mama, but I just didn't have the practice, or my thumbs are too big for the smartphone screen. We think about these things all the time when we gameplay as justifications for why an outcome happened. Sometimes we tend to disassociate ourselves from those outcomes. And then additionally, attitudes have a knowledge function. Our attitudes must be informed by something. And so the knowledge that we've accrued over time and the experiences, and even our faulty memories as human beings, really form a touchstone by which we can draw and pull knowledge from and to gain a better sense of how we feel about something. Let's keep going. Online gaming subscriptions and appeal. Let's keep going. So the mobile video game market. So if we're thinking about the marketplace here, with online gaming, there is so much going on. If we think about attitudes and we think about persuasion, online gaming is unique because online gaming tends to occur in smaller screens. This means that there may very well be less distractions as we're watching these smaller screens, and our attention is consumed by a singular video game that is oh so tiny that sometimes it requires more focus and attention. And so with the mobile video game market, we have an opportunity to connect with consumers multiple times during the day, and we're able to persuade them to think and believe certain things. So it may not be as robust as the video game console market, but the mobile video game industry is worth about $40 billion worldwide. This is growing. This is absolutely growing. Mobile video games are commanding just about half right now of the $138 billion video game industry in 2018. And so it may not be as robust as the video game console market because video game consoles tend to house more brand loyalty, longer customer lifetime valued relationships. And so in some respect, you could argue being part of the video game console industry is a bit more robust. But on the other hand, more and more people are turning toward video games on mobile apps. So mobile gaming reached new heights during the summer of 2016. Pokemon Go becomes the first mobile video game that offered augmented reality to be the most downloaded mobile application. Additionally, this marked a new phase in mobile gaming because this introduced consumers to the concept of location-based mobile games. Traditionally, mobile games such as Candy Crush, Clash of Clans, Angry Birds, and League of Legends have thrived on part because of usability, low cost for purchase, simple rules, low risk, and low investment from the consumers. And so if your game is usable, if it's intuitive, if you're able to simply figure it out, if it's cheap, simple rules, there's not much risk, and you also require a low investment from consumers in time, in focus, whatever it may be, your game may very well stand a chance of performing quite well in the marketplace. Mobile games are supposed to be transient in nature. It's very difficult to get a lot of customers enveloped in mobile gaming, which is different from video game consoles. Remember, video game consoles come out every 5 to 6 years. It's kind of like a presidential cycle, right? There's a lot of loyalty and equity and time involvement that's invested in deciding whether or not to purchase a console. And so mobile video games allow customers to go from game to game. There's no platform loyalty here. There's no console loyalty here. You're not tied down to anything. And so it's up to you to decide which social media apps or games, rather, you'd like to be part of. Let's keep going. Pay to play. So this is a strategy by mobile games. Mobile games have worked assiduously to procure consumer interest. So the goal here is to be able to get people to play. Get people to play for free. It's known as freemium gaming as well. You download an app for South Park, The Simpsons, Clash of Clans, League of Legends, whatever it may be, and you wind up playing the game for free. You learn all the nuances. You make investments in understanding the controls. You make investments in time. You make investments in proceeding. You make investments in gaming. You make investments in sharing the game. And so when all of this transpires, you're going quickly. You're moving through the game quickly, roadblock. You get hit with something. The game tells you you have to pay to complete levels, or you have to wait. and you have to keep playing and earning experience points or coins or whatever it may be to proceed to the next level. Can you wait? Or can you keep playing for free the same level until the next level is unlocked? So to acquire all of these items, consumers may be asked to make additional financial purchases. You could wait a week, or you can invest more time in the game to unlock a level. Or you can pay $5, or you can pay $3 if you need a sword, if you need a weapon. And so as we're going through all of these elements, pay to play really is looking for people who may be addicted to the game, people who really can't get enough of the game, people who want to advance in the game, people who are interested in really getting engaged with the game. It's an interesting business model. Might there be ethical quandaries here? Or is everything kind of okay? The manner in which we try to secure and attract consumers to these games may be problematic. After all, freemium does prey on people who have invested quite a bit of time and who want to keep doing more in the game. But there are people who are very much eager to play and really do like the game. But there have also been reports of people who have spent upwards of $100, $200, $300, even $1,000 on some of these games, far, far beyond what the game itself is likely worth to one consumer. It's an interesting problem, and it's something that the video game industry really hasn't said much of at this point. Let's keep going. Benign envy. We view what others have. It spurs us to work harder. This is why on social media, when you see your friend with the six-pack, or you see your friend who just had cheek implants, or you see your friend who has just bought a house on a lake, you may say to yourself, I need to work harder. We do this all the time as human beings. This is a process, this is a psychological theory that really does help explain how we behave. Consumers may pay more attention or engage in something if they're envious. It helps if the target is similar to us, is doing a task that requires an attribute related to whatever we're attempting to do. And so we may say, I'm a plumber too, why don't I own a house? Or I am working out as hard as he is, why can't I qualify for the triathlon? I'm shooting as many aliens as he is, why is he in the next secret level and I'm not able to rise to that level? I'm just as good a marksman as he is, or she is. It's better to be envious of a person, as it motivates us, especially when they are similar to us. Games prey upon this proclivity that we have as human beings. To say to ourselves, I want to do better. I want to be better. I see my friends and family. I see what they're doing. I want to be better. I need to be better. So with benign envy, we might work harder at a game after seeing what somebody else has accomplished, especially if we think we're better than them, if we have better skills than them, and if we have a particular characteristic or trait that should allow us to rise better and faster than the opposing player. Let's keep going. Status quo effect and flat rate bias. I apologize for the way that this slide loaded. And so if we think about subscriptions, status quo effect. Status quo effect. Some of us may have gym memberships. Some of us may have memberships with Netflix or Hulu or Amazon Go. And so when we're thinking about these subscriptions, why do we subscribe? Are you currently using all of your subscriptions? If you aren't, why aren't you changing things? If you have that gym membership, why aren't you going to the gym? Status quo effect says, we kind of like to keep things consistent. We like to keep things consistent. Sometimes we're not terribly interested in trying to change things. We don't like to expend much effort to go ahead and alter the subscription. It's too much effort. Flat rates comes into play because consumers in Western countries are more inclined to appreciate flat rates, while consumers from the Eastern countries tend to gravitate toward pay-per-use. So that means that a gym membership here, in which we may pay $50 a month, is much more amenable to Western consumers versus Eastern consumers, who may rather pay every time they go to the gym. We can map this on to video game consumption. We know that Xbox has two different kinds of memberships, allowing users to gain access to beta versions of video games, early versions of video games, demos of video games, as well as libraries. PlayStation also has two very similar subscriptions that allow for the same access. If we think about this, really distill it down, are there people who pay for memberships and may not really do much of anything with it thereafter? Yeah, there are. Companies know this. And so companies know that it's way easier, in some respect, to get people to sign up for something and then to convince them to maintain the subscription. It may make them feel good. They may feel as though they have access to something. And we are hesitant to embrace pain or loss. So the law of diminishing sensitivity comes into here as well. If we think about ratios and if we think about how much loss we have, that's also impactful. We don't care about losing $5 from 1,005 to 1,000, but we do care about losing $5 if we had 10 to 5. So the scale by which that we lose is great and compounded. So if we think about gaming, we think about subscriptions, we may say to ourselves, well, if our gaming membership goes up from 40 to 45, that's not a big deal. If our gaming membership goes up from 40 to 60, that is a big deal. So subscription managers are also mindful of pricing schemes as they're trying to price out subscriptions. The relationship between pleasure and pain decreases depending upon the scale where it is at. If you have $2 and I take $1 away from you, that's 50% of what you had. So the chunk by which we add and we subtract can influence and highlight and underscore a video game experience, and it can also serve as a detrimental tool to a video game experience as well. Let's keep going. Motivating consumers to market video games. Social proof. We are inclined to rate items highly if other people do it as well. Early reviews are more impactful than older reviews. Yes, social proof states that we rely on how people evaluate something, and we sometimes get in line. This may be also called and denoted as the bandwagon effect. People are saying this, people are jumping on the bandwagon, everybody's saying this about the new video game, everybody's saying that about the new video game console. I might also be inclined to rate items highly if other people are doing it as well. We want to be part of a social movement. We want to be part of a social tribe. We want something that we can connect with people by. And so when we're thinking about attitudes and persuasion and thinking about all the different kinds of models that we have to really understand how consumers make decisions and how their attitudes might be manipulated through advertisement, through key subscription management, there's a lot that's going on here. I think the one thing to be mindful of regarding all of this is the power of communication and the power of consumer thinking and decision making. Consumers are inclined to make a lot of decisions every day. And so as video game marketing managers, it's important to be mindful of those decisions and to figure out how to harness them in a positive and healthy way. The freemium model is something that is nothing short of an ethical dilemma. On the one hand, we're trying to get everybody to play the game, but on the other hand, we're also looking for people who may be addicted to the game and may be investing a lot of money. That kind of gray area is and has been very pervasive in the video game industry, And unfortunately, it shows no signs of being reconciled anytime soon. Well, that's all the time we have on Late Night Learning. As always, keep laughing and keep learning.